This is our second time hosting the Seeds of Hope concert in Guangzhou as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of YCYW Guangzhou. Tonight, as we enjoy the performances, let us remember the unifying and inspiring power of music.
The design is very much like an hourglass, so it starts with a very grand piece. Then as we work towards the intermission, we get more intimate pieces. And the finale involves many students.
For over 3 decades, the Seeds of Hope program has illuminated the lives of many students in China and abroad. And this year, through the Seeds of Hope Fund, we have invited the Yueqing players from Mingtian School to share their extraordinary music and culture with us.
So there's great diversity in the program. Chinese and Western mix a range of different cultures, and I really think that is the heart of the Seeds of Hope.
Some of them are my current students. To have them meet these 2 girls here and to be able to share that bonding and sisterhood that we've developed when we were their age and to carry on that legacy is really cool, and it's heartwarming.
I really like the idea of sharing music and love through music, so that's my goal when I play violin.
Every melody played, every service learning project completed, and every donation made sows seeds for a brighter future, enriching the lives of countless young people.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our episode number 6 for our CUGO webinar series.
大家晚上好，非常感谢大家来参加我们第6期耀中耀华的线上研讨会。
We've been really excited that this year we were able to bring you university admission representatives from around the world.
我们非常开心能为大家邀请到全球各地的高校。
And we're really excited that this year, that for tonight's final episode, we'll be able to share with you the advice from the University of Toronto admissions officers.
今晚我们非常荣幸邀请到了加拿大的多伦多大学的招生官来为大家带来我们的研讨会的内容。
My name is John Liu. I'm the head of career and university guidance, and I'm very thankful to be joined by my colleague, Ms. Coco Ko, to co-facilitate this webinar for you.
大家好，我是Coco， 然后我是在耀中外籍人员子女学校浦西校区担任职业与升学指导顾问。
Thank you for everyone to put in your questions to ask the University of Toronto, and we're excited to share with you their responses in a moment.
非常感谢大家积极的发言和积极的提问。那么我们把这些问题反馈给了多伦多大学的招生官。那么在接下来的研讨会当中，也将为大家去解答大家的问题。
As in our past episodes, during the webinar, if you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat, whether you are in WeChat or in PolyB, and we will either answer them through those platforms or answer them live in person at the conclusion of Kelli and Tracy's sharing.
和以往一样，如果大家在研讨会的过程当中有任何关于大学的问题，欢迎大家通过线上平台，可以是微信，也可以是 PolyB，来提出问题。我们可以在研讨会结束的时候为大家去解答。
Great. So without any further ado, let's pass the time over to Kelli and Tracy to share about University of Toronto.
那接下来我们把时间给到 Kelli 女士还有 Tracy 女士。
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to our university webinar series. We are really thankful to have Kelli and Tracy with us from the University of Toronto to really come share about the amazing learning opportunities at University of Toronto, and also share a little bit about what it is like to, go to higher education in Canada. So enough from me. Maybe if I can pass it over to you, Kelli, first, if you would like to introduce yourself and just share a little bit about yourself to our community.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Kelly and I'm a recruitment officer at the University of Toronto. I also have the pleasure of being one of the main U of T recruitment officers in China. So if I've met some of you before in my travels, it is so nice to see you again. And if we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I do hope that we are able to connect in the future. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And I will pass it over to my colleague Tracy to introduce herself.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, John, for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy, a recruitment officer for the University of Toronto, based in China. So I have also been to some of our campuses in China, from YCYS and also YWES. So if maybe I have met some of you, and I would love to see you later.
Thank you so much. And we're so thankful to have both Kelly and Tracy, because just like our schools, we're going to have a chance to share with you about University of Toronto bilingually. Kelly will be sharing in English to the answer to the question that you've asked, and then Tracy will be sharing them in Chinese. So with that being said, let me pose the first question. So can you just maybe tell us, what are some of the new programs that are right now at University of Toronto, especially because a lot of our students are very familiar with the University of Toronto, but anything new or exciting that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so at the University of Toronto, we don't necessarily have any brand new programs this year, but we do offer over 700 undergraduate program options across our 3 campuses. So we're really proud of the offering that we can provide to students. This is actually the best selection of programs in all of Canada and maybe around the world as well. We ensure that each year our courses remain relevant, that professors are exploring important topics, and our students are staying up to date with any academic or industry developments that may be occurring.
好的，那我也将从这个中文给大家解释一下我们的这个问题。那虽然呢，多伦多大学今年没有推出这个全新的专业，但是我们目前呢，在3个校区提供了超过700个本科专业的选项，这个在整个加拿大乃至全球应该都是非常全面而且独特的。那我们同时呢，也一直努力在确保每年我们的这些专业都保持与时俱进，然后教授们会带领同学们探索重要的课题，那学生们呢，也能够及时了解学术和行业的最新的发展。希望这个可以解答一部分同学们的疑惑。
Great, thank you so much. And you brought up, Kelly, the 3 campuses. Do you mind just sharing us a little bit about the 3 campuses and maybe what makes them unique in the University of Toronto, each of the campuses?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the University of Toronto, we are one university. So when we talk about the 3 campuses, we really like to focus on the fact that we are one university. We just happen to have the 3 campuses. Regardless of which campus you study at, you will receive the same high quality academic experience, and you receive the exact same diploma once you graduate as well. So what is the difference then? It really just comes down to the size of the campus and the location that you'll be studying at. But let's talk about each of them a little bit more. So first we'll chat about our University of Toronto Mississauga campus, which is located about 30 minutes west of the downtown core in Toronto. It's a mid-sized university campus with about 15,000 students. It's a self-contained campus with a very modern feel. It is a traditional campus environment where you actually go onto campus, and it's surrounded by beautiful green space. It has a bit more of an intimate learning community. You'll really get to know your fellow students and professors at the Mississauga campus. Mississauga itself is actually the 7th largest city in Canada, so it's still an excellent learning opportunity. And over 75 Fortune 500 companies have their headquarters in Mississauga alone. So it's a really unique learning environment, and has a lot of fantastic opportunities for students. Next, we have our St. George campus, which is located in the heart of downtown Toronto. It is our founding campus, and it's also our largest campus with about 30 35,000 undergraduate students. But don't worry, there are plenty of ways that we create more intimate learning communities for our students on our downtown St. George campus. The St. George campus has a really nice combination of older Gothic-style buildings and glass and steel towers and labs, and it's just steps from everything that the city has to offer. Now, our third campus, University of Toronto Scarborough, is located about 30 minutes east of the downtown core. Scarborough is known as our co-op campus, and it's where you'll find a lot of our traditional co-op work opportunities. Scarborough is very similar to Mississauga in the feeling of the campus, in that it has a lot of newer buildings and it's really self-contained. We sometimes like to joke at U of T that although Scarborough is our smallest campus in terms of student population, has about 15,000 undergraduate students, it is our largest campus because it's located on over 300 acres of parkland in the Highland Creek Valley. I also think that gives students a sense of the scale or the size of Canada, that we can have a 300-acre campus 30 minutes from the biggest city in the country. So that's a general overview about our three campuses. Again, though, it's really important to remember that regardless of which campus you choose to study at, same high-quality academic experience and the exact same diploma. Your diploma does not say U of T Mississauga, U of T Scarborough, or U of T St. George. It's just the University of Toronto.
好的，那么接下来我给大家介绍一下我们的这个3座不同的校园。因为呢，在多伦多大学其实很重要的一点是我们是一所大学，但是我们会有3个不同的校区。但是在这里呢，就是他们之间有很少的共同点，但是有很多的不同点，可以给大家一一介绍一下。那共同点呢，就是他们3个会提供同样最高质量的教育，同样的这个学术体验。那同时呢，毕业时候获得的这个毕业文凭也是完全相同的，这个是他们的共同点。那他们之间的区别也很多，比如说他们校区的位置啊、规模大小啊，以及提供的专业都有可能不同，因为每个校区会提供他们特别的一些独有的专业。那么我们来看一下这3座不同的校园哦。首先呢，我们看一下这个 UTM， 也就是密西沙加校区。这个多伦多大学密西沙加校区是位于多伦多市中心往西大概半小时车程的地方。那这是一个中等规模的一个大学校园，大概有15000名学生。那密西沙加本身它是加拿大的第7大城市，所以足够的发达。但是我们的校园是建在这种大型的绿地上，然后非常多的绿化，风景非常的优美。但是所有的这些建筑教学设施设备都是最新颖、最现代化的，所以有给大家这种现代的这种穿越的感觉。那在这里呢，有一个非常更加紧密的学习社区，同时呢，有超过75家的这个世界500强企业都把他们的总部设在密西沙加这个城市，为同学们的实习就业提供非常便利的一个位置条件。那接下来呢，我们来看一下 UTSG， 也就是圣乔治校区。那圣乔治校区它是我们的创始校区，也是最大的一个，大约有35000名的本科生。那看起来呢，学生数量很多，但是不用担心，因为我们有非常多的方法可以为学生创造更加亲密的一个学习社区。那这个校园它是位于多伦多市区的中心地带，同学们可以充分的体验到繁华的都市生活。那一般来说，大家会生活在这种古老的哥特式建筑和落地玻璃大厦的完美的结合当中，非常有体验感。同时呢，也可以充分利用到多伦多 downtown 的各种的资源环境，是我们同学们比较多，而且专业也是最丰富的一个校区。那最后呢，我们看一下这个 UTSC， 也就是士嘉堡校区，它是我们的第3个校区。这个士嘉堡呢是位于多伦多市区往东大概半小时车程的一个地方，也是环境非常的优美。那士嘉堡校区它跟刚刚密西沙加校区比较相似，有许多的新的建筑，而且是非常自给自足的这种校区。我们有时开玩笑说，尽管士嘉堡校区在学生人数上是我们最小的一个校区，但它却是我们最大的校区，因为它坐落在这种高地溪谷超过300英亩的一个土地上。那除了会提供一些文科、商科、理科的专业以外士嘉堡还会提供这种传统带薪实习项目 traditional co-op， 从大1开始每年都会进行带薪实习。那其他 以上是我们3个校区的一个介绍。
好，谢谢 ，Thank you so much. Thank you, Tracy. 谢谢 ，Thank you, Kelly. It's great to learn about the 3 different campuses and then their uniqueness, but yet also how each of them also still has that high quality UT educational core. Kelly and Tracy, you talked about the co-op programs at University of Toronto, and I know co-ops are one of the great kind of learning structures and systems that Canada has. So our students and our parents wanted to know the question, could you elaborate a little bit more on just what a co-op is? And then also maybe talk a little bit more about what co-ops look like at the University of Toronto, and if there are any, the ones that are popular, and also if there are any ones that are now just being developed.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Canada, co-op refers to work experiences that are interspersed within your degree and allow you to gain professional experience alongside potential academic credit. At U of T, we have lots of formal work opportunities that you can participate in. Our Scarborough campus is known as our official co-op campus, as we mentioned earlier, and this is where you'll find our traditional co-op program. You can work alongside industry professionals and make really strong connections between your academic studies and workplace experiences. You could be one of over 1,500 co-op students that are hired locally or internationally every year through the Scarborough Co-op experience and work for organizations as diverse as Microsoft, Ernst & Young, the Art Gallery of Ontario, hospitals, or government ministries as well. Now, students at our other campuses also have access to co-op experiences. They just look a little bit different in different places of the university. So students at the Faculty of Arts and Science on the downtown St. George campus also have access to a similar program called the Arts and Science Internship Program, or ASIP, as we like to call it on campus. The ASIP program combines paid work experience with specialized professional development training as well. As an ASIP student, you'll build your resume and professional network by completing 1 or 2 full-time paid work terms for a total of either 12, 16, or 20 months at a time. You'll also complete professional development courses where you'll learn the skills you need for finding a job, building relationships with employers, and ultimately being successful in the workplace. Now, students in engineering also have access to something called the Professional Experience Year, or PEY Co-op, as we call it on campus. The PEY Co-op is an opportunity to work full-time for an employer of your choosing for 12 to 16 consecutive months after your 3rd year. Students will complete a variety of career development modules and have unparalleled access to over 1,500 positions across every industry through the PEY Co-op program. Needless to say, there are plenty of opportunities to gain professional work experience throughout your undergraduate studies, through these formal co-op programs, and through additional work experiences that students will have access to throughout their undergraduate studies.
好的，那接下来呢，我为大家介绍一下我们的这些加拿大，然后包括多伦多大学的带薪实习的项目，其实也就 co-op。那在加拿大呢，这个 co-op 的它会指的是在学位课程之中穿插的一些工作经验，那使你呢能够在获得专业的经验的同时，获得这个学术的学分。那在多伦多大学呢，会提供许多这样的正式的工作机会。比如说我们刚刚其实有讲到这个士嘉堡校区，我们是以官方的这个带薪实习项目而闻名的。那这里呢，你可以和这些行业的专业人士一起工作，并且在这种学术研究还有职场经验之间建立强有力的一些联系。那我们所谓的这个传统带薪实习，这 traditional co-op 呢，它其实是从大一就进行4个月，大2 4个月，大3 4个月。那很多同学们也是在高中最后一年进行大学申 申请的时候，就会做你是要申请常规这个专业，还是申请 co-op 这个专业的一些选择。那每年呢，会至少有1500名的学生会参与到这些带薪实习项目里面。那雇佣的机构呢，会因不同的专业还有行业而有不同的区别，比如说包括像微软啊，这个4大会计师事务所呀，像安大略省的这个艺术画廊啊、医院啊，包括这个政府部门等等，都是我们同学们会去到的一些工作场地。那另外2个校区，他们虽然不是传统的带薪实习模式，是其他的模式，但是大部分的这个他们呢都是以大3结束后带薪实习1年为主的这种模式。那我们来看一下其他校区的一些带薪实习机会。比如说呢，位于这个市中心圣乔治校区这个文理学院，学生们呢会参加到类似的一些项目，叫做这个 Arts and Science Internship Program， 简称是 ASIP。ASIP 呢，它结合了有偿的这种工作经历和专业的职业发展培训。那作为 ASIP 项目的学生哦，你会通过完成1到2个这种全职的带薪实习期，来构建你的这个经历和职业生涯网络。那总时长呢，可以选择在12个月、16个月或者20个月。当然，如果你要进行这个超过12个月的，你可能会从大2的暑期就会开始这个全职的带薪实习。那在实习之前哦，你还将完成这种职业发展课程，因为在这些课程里面，你会将学习到这些求职的技巧，如何和雇主建立关系，以在职场上取得成功的一些方法。那接下来呢，我们再看一下其他院系，比如说工程院系。像我们工程专业的学生可以参加到这个 PEY Co-op， 它是工程的一个带薪实习的项目名字，这是一个可选的1年制的专业实践，也是一般在第3年结束的时候提供一般12到16个月，最多20个月的一个带薪实习。那虽然它是可选的，但是按照上一年的数据，98%的工程学生都选择参加了这个 PEY 项目，所以工程的学生很多会选择参加带薪实习，并且回来读大4的时候，基本都带着全职的 offer 回来的。那学生在这个苹果啊、特斯拉啊、这个 IBM 啊这些知名品牌的全球分公司工作，薪酬也是非常可观的。总而言之，不管你读的是什么专业，在整个本科期间哦，有很多的这种机会可以获得专业的工作经验，也非常建议同学们在毕业之前就参与到这些带薪实习的项目里面，因为我们提供这些项目也是希望同学们可以尽早的为未来的这个职业发展打下坚实的基础。
Great. Thank you so much for sharing about those great co-op programs. And actually, that leads right into the questions that we have from our parents about industry and what the economy like is in Canada, as you know, our students are looking forward to entering into the world of work. So I was just wondering, can you share if there are any industries in Canada that are currently growing very rapidly, or you feel like are offering a lot of very promising career opportunities within the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on what industry students are looking at. There's a lot of different opportunities in Toronto and the Greater Toronto area. We have very vibrant areas, and there are so many different opportunities for students to gain that professional work experience during their studies, which can be so invaluable for once you graduate and you have that professional experience. The University of Toronto consistently ranks the #1 university in Canada and in the top 15 globally for graduate employability. And I think this really goes to show that not only do we think our graduates have excellent options, but the world rankings do as well. So our students are highly sought after once they graduate in all different industries. Now, let's recommend a few resources that we have on campus that really help students with their career readiness. So first off, I like to recommend students to take a look at our Career Navigator website, as there is some really fantastic industry-specific information about career opportunities, alumni opportunities, and just career options as well. Our Career and Co-Curricular Learning Network is also going to be a really valuable resource while you're a student, because they will help you explore career options, maybe things that you've thought about, maybe things you have never considered before as well. They will also help you to apply for jobs, fine-tune your resume and interviewing skills, and they're on hand to support all U of T students with career preparation throughout your undergraduate studies and once you become an alumni as well. So that support doesn't end when you graduate. We are still there to support you in those months and 2 years once you graduate to really get that solid foundation in your career. We also have something called the CLNX, which is the largest job and career platform for students and graduates in Canada, and it's exclusive to our U of T students. We also have our Center for International Experience that can support international students with any questions you may have about working off campus during your studies and eventually obtaining a work permit when you graduate as well. And don't forget that we have an extensive alumni network at the University of Toronto. U of T actually has over 690,000 alumni living and working in over 190 countries and territories around the world. And this can be a fantastic advantage when you are entering the job market, both within Toronto and around the world, because you can really tap into these connections, these previous U of T students who want to help other graduates or current students find jobs once they graduate as well.
好的，那我接下来呢，来问大家介绍一下这个多伦多地区、加拿大，或者是说我们大学，可能针对同学们求职以及市场的一些环境。那这个问题其实非常好，但是同时呢，这个问题也取决于很多具体的情况。多伦多呢，以及大多伦多地区是充满机遇的一个城市或者是地区，那为同学们呢提供了许多在本科期间获得专业工作实践的一些机会。事实上，不管是在综合排名还是就业能力排名，多伦多大学一直被评为加拿大排名第1的大学，并且在全球毕业生的这个就业能力排名中一直是位列前15名的。这表明我们的毕业生有许多优秀的选择，这个在全世界都是有目共睹的。这里呢，我想给同学们一些建议，怎么样来在我们的这个支持下获得更多的求职方面的帮助。那我建议同学们呢，可以进入到我们的这个职业导航系统，那里呢有关于职业机会啊、校友支持啊、职业选择等等这种行业特定的信息。除此之外，我们的这个职业与课外学习的一些体系也是非常宝贵的一个资源，可以帮助你探索到这种职业选择、申请工作以及完善简历和面试技巧。那他们在整个的本科期间乃至成为校友之后，都会持续支持所有同学们的这个求职和职前的一些准备。那我们的同学们呢，在求职之前会登录到我们的一个 Career Learning Network 的一个平台，简称 CLNX。在这个平台上它这个平台其实现在已经是加拿大最大的一个求职就业平台，但是它是多伦多大学做的，也只开放给多伦多大学的学生。那在上面会有16000多家的雇主，每年持续在上面PO岗位，所以对于就是对于我们的学生们来说，在上面很容易看到适合的机会，然后再找到我们的求职指导中心的老师们来帮助他们做这种简历啊、这个求职信啊的这些润色指导，以及面试的一些指导和模拟面试。那在这个平台上，它的岗位是远远超过我们在校生人数的。那么还有一个非常优秀的一个叫国际体验中心，就是 CIE。那它可以为国际学生提供关于这个校外工作啊，以及最终毕业时获取工作签证的各类的支持。那同时我们还有非常庞大的校友网络，多伦多大学有69万的这种校友，遍布在全球190多个国家和地区。所以当你进入到就业市场的时候，无论是在多伦多本地还是在全球其他城市，这都是一个非常巨大的优势。
Thank you so much, and for giving us kind of the well-rounded, look at all the resources for careers. And career support for students at University of Toronto. And to follow up with that question, we had another question, I think, from our families that are more specific, I guess, about our current Chinese students and our current political climate. So the question is, in the current political climate, how open is Canada in providing work opportunities to Chinese students after graduation? And just wondering, how does UFT support, kind of Chinese students who want to work in Canada to continue with that process?
Of course. So a really important question, of course, when you are thinking of moving to a whole new country, is going to be those opportunities after you graduate, especially with immigration. I will caveat my answer by saying that in Canada, you have to be a registered immigration consultant in order to provide official immigration advice. I am not a registered immigration consultant, but I can definitely give just a bit of general information about this. So immigration requirements are subject to change year over year, so I can't speak too much about the future. I can say that right now, students are eligible to work up to 24 hours per week during their studies on a Canadian study permit. So there's opportunities for you, again, to access all of those work opportunities we've discussed so far through your Canadian study permit. And as I've mentioned and sort of referred to, we have a fantastic Center for International Experience, or CIE, as we also refer to it. And the CIE is always on hand to assist students with further work permits and rights to work in Canada once you graduate. The CIE, or Center for International Experience, has a team of registered immigration consultants that students can access to help with your study permit and your postgraduate work permit. And that service is provided to students free of charge. So we really encourage students to connect in with our immigration consultants on campus to get the up-to-date and relevant information throughout your studies. Right now, there are opportunities for students to work in Canada once they graduate. But again, because I'm not a registered immigration consultant, I can't give too much information, and it is always tough to say exactly how things will look in the future. But we are very optimistic that Canada continues to be a really welcoming place for students to stay after their graduation and to work in our country as well.
那谢谢这个Kelli回答，同时也谢谢 John 这个很好的问题，因为这个对于家庭或者是学生做未来目的地国家的这个决策肯定很有帮助，那也很重要。那在加拿大，其实毕业之后的机会非常多，包括不管是移民还是一些毕业工签。那移民的这个要求每年都会有可能发生变化，所以我们先不过多讨论这个未来的一些情况，我们先看一下目前的我们可以讨论的一些政策。那学生呢，在加拿大学习期间，如果他持有这个学习签证的话，每周有资格工作最多24个小时。那同时正如我们之前有提到的，我们有一个非常棒的这个国际体验中心 Center for International Experience， 简称 CIE。那它会帮助这个学生在毕业时候申请进一步的这个工作签证，或者是在学习期间任何学习签证有关的问题，都有一个团队来支持和帮助到同学们。那我非常鼓励同学们可以在本科期间和这个 CIE 保持联系，以确保了解最新的这个当前的工作签证的要求，那让他们以及让他们做这个毕业工签的申请。那刚刚讲到的一部分这个政策，是目前来说都是越来越好的一些政策。其实对于同学们过去之前或者说毕业之前，也希望大家了解最新的。但是从加拿大整体来看，不管它这个政策细则怎么去变化，它都是一个非常刚刚 Kelli 提到非常 welcoming， 或者是我们非常 multicultural 的这样的一个国家。国家的性质是这样子，所以非常欢迎同学们来我们来加拿大，来多伦多大学体验一下我们不同文化、多元文化的这种环境。
Thank you so much for explaining that. And we've learned so much about the university and also all the resources for the students when they go and then also after when they graduate. Now we're going to just kind of ask a couple of questions about applying and how do students get in. So as you may know, our schools, our YCIS schools have an IG and IB curriculum, and our Yawa schools have an IG and A level curriculum. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about the, the application process and the review process for University of Toronto, especially with those two curricula in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the University of Toronto, we have what is known as a merit-based admissions process, which means that most of our programs don't require anything more than your academic information in order to assess you for admissions. So generally speaking, we do not require personal statements, council references, or extracurriculars in order to assess you for admission. We primarily assess students based on your predicted grades in either your IB diploma or your A-level courses. Now, in terms of our entry requirements, both the IB diploma and A levels are acceptable curriculums that we can accept in order to be considered for entry. We don't have a preference. Students should choose the option that best suits your own learning style in consultation with your school, of course. You don't get bonus points in our admissions review process for completing one or the other curriculum. Now, for the IB system, we are looking for the full IB diploma with a minimum score of 28 points. However, most of our programs will offer above this minimum. We will look at the IB diploma out of 42 points rather than 45, so we do not include bonus points. And we will want to see any prerequisite courses in either your HL or your SL courses. For the A levels, we will want to see if you've done any GCSEs. If you have done GCSEs, we would be looking for a minimum of 5 IGCSEs. And we would expect to see either 4 AS levels or 3 A levels. And once again, we will be looking for prerequisites at either the AS or A level. Now, please remember that information about entry requirements can change slightly every year. So it's always important to refer to the information on our website for the most up-to-date admissions requirements every year.
好的，谢谢 John 刚刚的问题。那多伦多大学呢是采用这种 merit base 的一个录取标准，也就是基于学术成绩来进行审核。这意味着我们大多数的专业呢，在审核申请的时候，除了学术成绩以外，并不需要其他的材料。那通常情况下，我们不要求提供像 PS 啊、推荐信啊、课外活动记录啊这一些不同的内容。但我们主要的这个评估依据是学生在像 IB 或者 A Level 课程中的这种预估分在校成绩单这一些。当然，我们有一些专业也想更加综合的评估，同学们会需要另外的一个附加申请，有这样12类专业。那对于大部分专业而言，我们需要通过申请人的这个学术成绩来做出一个录取决定。那针对咱们比如说YCYW 的这个 IB 课程，或者是 YCYW 的这个 A Level 课程，那么会有这个不同的材料清单提供给不同课程体系的同学们。那通常呢 IB 还是 A Level 都是我们常规会接受的课程体系，我们没有偏好，就是学生应该根据自己的这个学习的风格，在学校的指导下来选择最适合自己的这个不同的选项和课程体系。那在我们的这个录取审核当中完成某一类的课程其实并不会获得额外的加分。那我们看一下不同的这个课程体系吧。首先看一下 IB 的体系，我们会要求完整的这个 IB Diploma， 那可以接受的这个最低分数呢是28分。这里会有2点需要注意一下。第一点是这个是 out of 42的，不是45分，因为我们不看这3分的extra points。那第二点呢，就是我们大多数的专业的录取标准会远高于这个最低的要求，所以大家可以看一下我们不同专业要求的这个 admission range 是怎么样的。那不同的专业呢，还另外会要求这个高中的先修课程是不同的。对于这些先修课程以及 prerequisite 课程，它的这个是either standard level or higher level 的对应的课程都是可以符合的。那我们再看一下 A Level 的学生，如果学生完成了这个 GCSE 阶段的一些课程，我们会要求至少提供5门的 IGCSE 课程，以及至少4门 AS 或者是3门 A Level 的成绩。那不同的这个专业呢，会要求高中的这个先修课程是不同的嘛，所以对于这些先修课程 AS 或者是 A Level 的对应的课程都是可以符合要求的。那值得注意的是，关于入学要求之后的这些信息呢，每年都可能会略有变化，所以会希望同学们呢始终参考我们官网上最新的一个录取要求信息，来提前做申请的准备。
Thank you so much for explaining that about our IB and A level curriculum. As you may also know, our schools, some of our YC schools and some of our YW schools will also be starting the HKDSE curriculum in the next academic year. It's a new curriculum for our community. So would you mind sharing from University of Toronto's perspective, how would you evaluate students that go through that curriculum that apply to University of Toronto?
Absolutely. So that's a very exciting development for your schools. The HKDSE curriculum is also an acceptable qualification for admissions to the University of Toronto and it would be treated as equal to both IB and A levels. Again, it's really up to students to choose which curriculum suits them with their school's consultation, of course. For admissions purposes at the University of Toronto, we would be looking for the full Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education, including all necessary prerequisite courses once again. We would probably be looking for a minimum grade of 4 in your subjects in order to be meeting our minimum entry requirements. However, more competitive programs will require higher grades in order to be considered, similarly with the IB diploma and the A levels as well.
那非常开心可以听到咱们不同的校区给同学们提供了更多的这个课程选择，像香港的这个 DSE 课程呢，它也是多伦多大学录取审核可以接受的课程之一。那并且呢，它被和这个 IB 啊或者是 A Level 等其他的课程体系是一视同仁对待的。那对于录取上来说，我们将要求完整的香港中学的这个 Diploma， 那同时呢，包含所有对应的这个专业必要的一些高中先修课程。那同时呢，我们会要求可能各个科目至少达到4分的成绩，但更加 competitive 的一些专业呢，我们会需要更高的成绩来达到。不过对于我们未来申请人来说，一定要在申请之前在我们官网获取到最新的信息。
Thank you so much for that. And I know that as you were sharing before, for the most of the applications to programs at the University of Toronto, there really isn't a personal statement for most of the programs. But I know for some of them, maybe we can say a few of the more competitive ones there are. Just wondering if you can share maybe some insights about, for those programs, if students have to write a personal statement, what should students focus on and how should they approach that personal statement or that kind of writing requirement from the university?
Absolutely. So while most of our programs don't require anything other than your academic information, exactly right, some of our programs do have what we call a supplemental application. These sometimes consist of short answer questions, maybe a short essay, even sometimes a recorded video response. For these supplemental applications, we're really looking to see information about who you are as an individual and why you might be interested in studying a particular subject. The questions in supplemental applications will always be situational. So sometimes I use the example, what would you do if you saw a classmate was being bullied? Or another potential question may be, what would you do if you got a bad grade on an exam? And what we're really looking to see is how you would respond to these particular situations, again, to get a better sense of who you are as an individual. Supplemental applications will be factored into our admission decision. I've seen students that have had perfect GPA, but they didn't put any time or effort into their supplemental, and that student didn't get an offer of admission. On the other end, I've seen students with a slightly lower GPA, but they worked really hard on their supplemental and they got an offer instead. So the supplemental application does have an impact on your eligibility. The grades are still the most important part, but it's really important to ensure you're taking time to really craft thoughtful responses.
好的，确实像John提到的一样，我们大部分的这个专业呢，以学术成绩为主要的这个审核依据。然而呢，我们有一些专业可能需要一个叫做 supplemental application 的一个材料，也就是附加申请。那大概有12类专业，我们会需要这样一个申请材料。那这12类专业呢，是希望更全面的了解我们的同学们，比如说你为什么选择这样特定的一个专业啊，或者是你对于某一个专业或者学科，你有怎样的一个passion， 或者是大家的这个对于不同专业方向未来的一个规划等等。那这些附加申请呢，它可能是这个书面问答，或者是视频录制问答，或者是你的这个 statement of interest 等等。那比如说我们的这个计算机科学专业，它是有这样4个 short answer question 需要同学们回答。比如说我们的这个商学院或者是工程院系都是有这个 video components 需要同学们来录制回答，然后在回答之后，针对这一些附加申请 supplementary application， 我们会有一 个打分，这个跟你的学术成绩同样的重要，所以这个是非常重要的一个申请过程。那在根据你所申请的项目进入到我们自己的这个申请系统之后，你就会看到你所需要完成的这些 supplemental application，那可能就是关于你的背景、你的兴趣爱好，以及为什么热衷于你特定的这些专业，以及甚至怎么看待这个世界的。那这个应该是同学们想要了解到我们申请中的一些小秘密。
Thank you so much. Now just a question about testing as far as language testing. Can you provide some details about what are maybe some of the language requirements for admissions to University of Toronto, keeping in mind perhaps like our, IB A Level, and also if you have anything to add for HKDSE as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the official University of Toronto English language policy is if English is not your first language, for example, it's not the first language you learned at home as a child, you will need to provide evidence of adequate English facility for admission consideration unless you qualify for an exemption. However, the good news is that we can accept a variety of qualifications to meet this requirement. For our IB students, IB English A at either HL or SL with a grade of 4 or higher does meet our English language requirement. Our GCSE English with a grade of B or 6 or higher, or AS or A level English with a predicted grade of C also meets our English language requirements. Essentially, what this means is that if you have taken any of those courses that I mentioned, you do not need to provide an additional English language test because it automatically meets our requirements. However, we also accept a wide range of tests as well. IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, all of these are accepted at the University of Toronto. We have a full comprehensive list on our website of all of the different English language tests that we accept. So it's always good to just double check on the website. But again, remember, there are lots of ways that you can meet the English language requirement. And one thing I will mention for the Hong Kong, the HKDSE, unfortunately, there isn't a course within that meets our English language requirement. So you would have to provide one of those additional tests, whether it is the IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, whichever you prefer.
那针对这个英语语言的要求多伦多大学的这官方政策呢是，如果英语不是你的母语的话，你可能需要提供这个足够的英语能力证明，也就是咱们上问到的这个英语言考试，除非是符合我们的语言豁免条件。那不过好消息是针对 IB 和 A Level 的同学们都有这个豁免语言考试的机会，因为比如说对于 IB 的同学们，如果你有学习这个 IB English A， 不管是 Higher Level or Standard Level， 你的这个成绩有达到4分或者以上，那就可以满足我们的英语语言要求，不需要考这种语言考试。那对于 A Level 的同学们其实也是，如果你的这个 GCSE English 有达到 B 或者以上，其实也就是对等的是6分或者以上，即可以满足这个条件，或者是咱们 A Level or AS Level 的这个 English 的预估分有达到 C 或者以上，那同时也符合了我们的这个英语语言要求。那刚刚说的针对 IB 和 A Level 学生的这几种豁免方式，一旦达到了，就不需要再提供英语语言考试的分数给我们这个做审核了。那另外呢，就是因为我们还接受一系列的这种英语语言考试成绩，所以如果是比如说咱们香港 DSE 的课程的学生，就正常的提供英语语言考试的成绩就可以了，比如说雅思、托福、多邻国等等，这一些都是我们可以接受的一些语言考试成绩。那当然同学们也可以在我们官网上找到我们可以接受的所有的英语语言考试的完整列表，以及我们可以豁免的方式。
Thank you all so much. My next question is just, we had some students that were just wondering, how does the University of Toronto help international students transition onto university, get adjusted to university kind of life, university culture? So if you can share a little bit about that from the student experience.
Absolutely. So there are lots of different supports for students at the University of Toronto. This is something that we really prioritize for our students. First off, it's worth mentioning that all students, whether you're international or local, have access to all of our supports and services on campus. Almost all of these supports and services are included as part of your tuition fees, so that's an added bonus. We have lots of supports such as free tutoring, walk-in math center and writing center. We have first-year learning opportunities, and lots of opportunities that are really aimed at easing your transition into university life. We also are really proud because we have a really high success rate. In the Faculty of Arts and Science, we have over 90% of our first-year students will successfully move from first year into second year. And I think this really reflects our commitment to student achievement. However, we understand that our international students do have some unique needs throughout your undergraduate studies. And so in addition to all of the general U of T supports and services that you can access, we have our fantastic Center for International Experience. I know I've mentioned them a few times in this session, but they are going to be a fantastic office for you to connect with throughout your time at the University of Toronto. The Center for International Experience really offers a wide range of supports. Immigration advising to assist you with your study permit and your work permit questions. We've already talked about that, but they also do additional supports such as an airport welcome team to greet you at Pearson International Airport in Toronto when you first land. They'll help you with organizing your bank account in Canada, accessing a social insurance number, setting up a cell phone when you first arrive. They also offer English language meetups, drop-in sessions to help with topics like dressing for the Canadian winter. The Center for International Experience is really just a fantastic resource, and it's a wonderful community of students, both local and international, who want to connect as well. And one particular resource I do like to highlight, which is offered by the Center for International Experience, is the UHIP program, or the University Health Insurance Plan. This is a mandatory health insurance plan that all international students are automatically enrolled in throughout the duration of your studies. And this program really covers all of your basic healthcare needs, such as hospital or doctor's visits. So we really offer a wide range, a holistic range of supports to support our international students throughout their time at U of T.
好的，其实这个问题也非常的好，因为这个是我们觉得非常重要的一个事情。那多伦多大学呢，为我们的国际学生提供了非常丰富的这个支持和服务。首先值得一提的是所有的学生，不管你是国际学生还是本地学生，都可以使用校园内所有的支持和服务。几乎这些所有的支持和服务都是包含在大家的学费里面的，这个是非常的有用的。那比如说，我们同学们在拿到录取之后，进入到大学之前，就会提供一系列的 first year opportunities 来帮助同学们顺利过渡到大学的学术和个人的生活。那还比如，我们从大一开始就可以提供免费的课后补习，像 Math Center 啊，这个 Writing Center 等等，所以大家不需要再到外面花钱去做这些补习的机会。那这些的支持其实在很大程度上也反映到了我们的毕业率上，我们的这个 success rate 是超过了90%，那差不多在92%左右。那92%的这个同学们从大一顺利进入到大二的这个专业，并且完成他们的学位的学习，那这一比例呢，也是高于这个安大略省，也就是我们所在这个省份的平均水平。那么非常可以理解，这个国际学生在整个本科学习期间可能会有独特的一些需求，因此我们特别设立了这个国际体验中心 CIE。那这个呢，将是你在多伦多大学期间可以联系的非常绝佳的资源。那 CIE 呢，可以提供这种广泛的支持，包括像移民咨询啊，来帮助大家解决学习签证和工作签证的一些问题，还有像机场的接机，在你首次抵达多伦多机场时来迎接你，他们将帮助你衔接这个银行账户、社会保障号码还有手机等等这些事宜。那除了这些之外，还会提供这种像英语言聚会啊，或者是一些加拿大冬季着装等主题的一些不同的活动，来丰富你的这个生活。 那国际体验中心呢，它不仅仅是一个极好的支持资源，同时也是这个本地学生和国际学生组成的一个非常美好的社区，他们都希望相互进行链接。那特别值得一提的是这个 CIE 提供的另外一个资源呢，是叫 UHIP， 也就是大学健康保险计划。那所有的这个国际学生都会在学期期间自动注册到我们这个 UHIP， 它覆盖了基本的一些医疗需求，其实跟它在这个安大略省的本地居民是几乎一样的这个保险计划。就比如说你到医院就医等都是会 cover 在里面的，所以这个是我们会为所有学生以及特别为国际学生提供的很多的支持资源和服务。
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you so much, Tracy, for just really sharing so much insight about University of Toronto. Letting our students know the great programs that are there, really giving us so much guidance about how to apply, about the career aspirations our students have, and to really, really appreciate your time today. So on behalf of all of our YC and YW students and parents, we just want to say thank you, and we hope to see you both in our school soon. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, everyone. And thank you for engaging with Kelly and Tracy throughout the webinar.
欢迎回来。
We have some questions that were posted during the webinar that we're going to answer live now. And just as a reminder, please, if you have any more questions, please post them via WeChat or on Polyv, and we will answer them.
我们接下来会解答大家提出的问题。那如果在过程当中大家有任何问题，欢迎大家随时提出。
Coco, I think you're going to answer the first question that was posed by one of our audience members.
关于多伦多大学的截止时间，那其实大家注意一下，就是在它的官网上，它是对于国际生的申请，它有一个推荐的截止时间是11月7号。那么就是国际生的话，我们就是都会建议你们在11月7号之前去提交申请。那提交申请其实非常的简单，这个流程。那大家根据自己申请的安省的学校的只有多大，还是说还有其他安省的学校，那可以选择通过多伦多大学它本身的网申页面去提交，也是可以通过OUAC 来提交他们的申请。
Thank you so much. And then we have another question about scholarships. And another reminder, please put any more questions that you have in the chat. So we have a question about University of Toronto and scholarships and what are the scholarships like? So for scholarship-wise, there are two different types of scholarships. There are often what's called the entry scholarship, which is based on your IB or A level results or HKDSE results. The University of Toronto may give you a one-time entry scholarship to reward what you've done well in your test results. And then there are more, and I'm sorry, those scholarships you don't need to apply for. The university will offer them to you if they feel like you're a student that they really want to attract to the school. There are other type of scholarships where I would say larger scholarships that are more of an amount and that will carry more into the 4 years. And those are the more competitive scholarships that sometimes you will need to find and be nominated for from your school. And there are specific deadlines for that. So if you're interested in University of Toronto as your first choice, really important, as your first choice, please do speak to your CUGO at school because we can nominate you for that scholarship. But there are also additional requirements, which are essay requirements. And for that, there will be recommendation requirements for the scholarship only. And then I know there was another question about recommendations for applications that I think Coco is gonna answer.
So U Toronto, they do not look at your recommendation letters. 所以多伦多大学申请是不需要申请人去提供推荐信的。那么这是他们的招生官在我参加了他们的很多场的 counselor event 都有就是提到这个问题。那么他们是不看推荐信的，因为多伦多是一个公立的大学，其实他每年的招生人数非常多的，他们的招生官就是这个材料他们说是不需要的。当然包括除了多伦多大学，加拿大很多的学校基本上也是不会需要推荐信的，除非说像 John 刚才提到的，可能你如果要申请奖学金，可能他会有一些特殊的要求。
Thank you so much, Coco. I have another question here about co-ops. And thank you for being interested in the co-ops. And I think that's one of the great things about the University of Toronto, and just many Canadian universities, that cooperative program you heard from Tracy and Kelly. But it's really, really important, especially for University of Toronto, because it is such a big school, to apply early. Especially international students apply early because of such a big school, there is a lot of competition for those co-ops. So make sure that you are thinking about them early, going to the co-op office and seeing what the opportunities are, getting your foot in the door. Now, as you also heard from Kelly, there are 3 different campuses, right? St. George's, Mississauga, and Scarborough. So if you're going to be going to the St. George's campus, which is their largest campus, you can imagine that the co-ops in those campuses may be even more limited because of the student amount. So students, if your co-ops are important for you, please make sure you look at the specific program at each of the campuses and what kind of co-ops they provide at each campus. Don't just think of University of Toronto as one place. There really are 3 campuses, 3 different kind of learning experiences. No matter which campus you go to, Mississauga, St. George's, or Scarborough, you get the same diploma. So when you are going to be graduating, it doesn't say University of Toronto and Scarborough University. It's just one diploma from University of Toronto. So I really would advise for you to go look into those requirements. And it follows up into the question within that also another student had asked me before about psychology requirements. So if you're going to be applying to psychology, again, from university to university, it's going to be different. If you're going to be applying to a program that's a Bachelor of Science, there may be some math or science requirements for psychology because it's data and science heavy. If you're applying for the Bachelor of Arts, that may not be a requirement. So again, it really is students to think about, yes, what major I'm interested in, but then 2, think about what kind of learning experience I want. St. George's and Scarborough are different. And then 3, based on that, then look at the learning requirements. So am I doing the Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts? Lots of questions to consider. So that's why your CUGO is at your campus to answer and help you look through and do the research for this, right? So we really encourage you to start researching now, but then also talk to your counselor to dig a little bit deeper. Sorry. I'm going to pass over to you also. I think, Coco, they were talking a little bit about the learning experience at University of Toronto, and especially Coco wanted to share that from some of our alumni.
这是关于多伦多大学的一个学习和生活。那其实多伦多大学的科研实力非常的强，它在世界的排名也是大学的排名当中也是在25名这个非常靠前的一个位置，所以它的一个学术的要求，其实对学生的学术要求是非常高的。那学生进入到大学以后，尤其像他们非常强的一些专业，比如说 computer science 或者是 engineering， 还有它的 economics。那我以前申请进多大并且去入读的学生，跟他们交流过，所以像他们的学习压力其实是比较大的。然后有一些专业的 curve 就是压分会有一点点压分。然后呢，他们大1或者是大2期间，像每周可能或者是每2周都可能会有一些 test， 数学或者是工程专业。经济，然后他们说，我的学生的反馈就是数学拿很高分的人其实并不多，所以需要大家非常的就 put into a lot of effort， 你还是要非常非常的就是花一些时间在你的学术上，那么去规划自己的时间，安排自己的学习。对。
Thank you so much for that, Coco. And I have another question from another student that says, does UT have bilingual courses like the University of Ottawa? Very good question. So students, you have to really look major to major because some courses that require you to have additional language may have that opportunity. But just as maybe something I could share about Canada, remember, Canada in the province of Quebec is a French speaking colony as well. So if you go to McGill, right, for example, one of the well-known schools within Quebec, many courses will be offered bilingually. And in fact, that's one of the draws of that school. If you are also a French citizen or French permanent resident, that is, you will also be given local fee status, just as if you're a Canadian, because of their reciprocal agreements between Quebec and France. So you really have to do the kind of the research for that. And so then I also have a follow-up question here that does UT have a Bachelor of Arts or for international relations? And how does a Bachelor of Arts work? That's a great question. So let me say in general, the difference between Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science is that for a Bachelor of Science, for your graduation, there is usually a major research project you have to do that is quantitative in nature. So that means you have to do some sort of data analysis, data collection. It is what they would consider a science degree. For a Bachelor of Arts, they will still have graduation requirements, but may not be as heavy into the research or quant research aspect of it. So their research may be more qualitative. So those are the kind of the differences. And usually for a Bachelor of a Science degree, the fields that you'll be prepared for will be fields that are more in-depth with quantitative research. So for psychology, for example, neuroscience, or cognitive science usually is in the Bachelor of Science. If you're going to be a practicing therapist, that usually is a Bachelor of Arts, because as a therapist, you may not need to be that in-depth and getting ready to involve in research. Where if I do the Bachelor of Science, I may want to go towards a degree of a graduate school of research. So I need to understand what a p-value is. I need to understand what regression analysis is. So those are kind of the differences between the two. Good question.
还想跟大家介绍一下，就是刚才在研讨会当中有提到，就是申请多伦多大学如何去 prove 你的英语的能力。那其实提到了有各种的，除了就是 IB 的 English course 或者是 A Level 的，你选择英语或 GCSE 拿到一定的分数，可以就是证明你的英语能力。那或者是雅思、托福，那这些考试都是可以就是证明你的学习能力的。那么就是我在去参加 Counselor Event 的过程当中，那招生官有分享一个非常重要的信息，就是比如说多大的雅思的要求是6.5分总分，小分可能是6分这样子。那不是说你雅思拿到7分或者是7.5分，你就比别的拿6.5分的学生更有录取概率更高。那英语只是证明你有能力能够在多大的这个英语授课的环境下完成他们的一个能够很好的去在课堂上去上课，去完成这个学业。那所以你只要达到这个分数，你通过就可以了。
Thank you so much for all your questions this evening. And because as we're getting close again, it's already 7:05, we have to end the session. Remember, if you have any questions, we'll be sharing the recording and then the email address for Kelli and Tracy for you to follow up. And of course, you can speak to your counselors at each of your schools, and they will be able to answer all these questions.
非常感谢大家今天晚上来参加我们的线上研讨会，也非常感谢大家非常积极的提出了很多的问题。那如果在会后大家还有任何的问题，也欢迎大家通过我们的联系方式联系到大家的 UGO 老师然后我们会耐心的为大家去解答。谢谢大家。
And this tonight concludes this year's CUGO webinar series. We're really thankful for you joining all of them, and we're looking forward for you to join us again next academic year.
今晚的研讨会也是我们YCYW 研讨会的最后一场，非常感谢大家一路以来的支持和参与。在我们接下来的一年，我们也会敬请期待，我们也会给大家带来更加丰富和精彩的内容。
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Good night. Bye bye.
Good night.